I'll go with the blatantly obvious one. Uh, Peter Vermes is definitely on the hot seat, probably the hottest seat of any manager right now because SKC looked dreadful. I mean, they have no wins this season. The only team with 0 wins at this point. They have 3 goals scored in 9 games. This it feels so much like when Bob Bradley was in charge at Swansea, when, they just didn't score goals, didn't win games, and Bob was out within, like, half a season. I think considering Vermes had a full year last year where this team was also a disaster, um, his seat has gotta be scorching hot. And I don't wanna fully put the blame on him because I feel like his team is just always hurt. Like, his star guys are supposed to be Pulido and Garikinda, and I feel like they've barely played over the last 2 seasons because they're just always injured. Uh, but it's not like SKC haven't given him guys to succeed. They've spent the money, they brought in the players for them. Eric Tommy, Willie Agata, Pulido, Kinda. I mean, they try. I'm not saying that they definitely don't try. But considering the results that they've gotten so far this season, I can't imagine Vermes lasts much longer.
So a lot of people scream for his head, and I'm one of them. I'm absolutely there with you. He's been very, very good for a long, long time to this league as a player and as a coach. But your stats were perfect. You can't have those stats and survive. Here's what people I think aren't talking enough about. In 2018, top of the West. 2019, second to last. 2020, top of the West. 2021, third. 2022, bottom. 2023, bottom. There are moments where he can be brilliant. And I think that is why he's still here. Because, as you mentioned, his big players are hurt. But there's a time where you need to get more out of a group of players than just your top. And I think that's what he's failing to do. And it really it comes back to the idea of the offseason moves. And we talked about this. Their offseason decisions this year were to bring back 2 players that are what, 34 and 36 from the
Yeah,
glory days when they
and
were
Fontas too, who's like
and
32
Fontas.
plus.
Yep. And again, Fontas can still do the job. I mean, I know he got sent off yesterday, but he's not terrible. But the last I mean, their off-season moves are just keeping the old guys and hoping it works. Keeping the old guys hoping it works and then signing 1 or 2 youth guys that might pan into something, might not, who knows, right? These guys haven't hit on a CB2 signing in years. I think their last good pairing for center backs was like 2012, Colin and Beasley. When I genuinely, outside of those 2, I can't remember the last time there were 2 center backs in Kansas City that were like, oh yeah, these guys are going to be your day in, day out guys. I mean, you rotate between Fontas, Puncec, and Ismiat Marine. You threw, I think Courtney Ford was in there at some point. I mean, there were just years and years and years, almost a decade now, probably more than a decade, where they were trying to figure out who the center backs were. Tim Melia in his prime was keeping them in it. They're married to tactics that just have not worked. It's quite clear. But he got a 5-year extension last year after finishing bottom of the table. Second bottom. I think Vancouver was below them, maybe. I don't know. Was it Vancouver below them? Who was below them last year?
Probably San Jose.
San Jose. Yeah. Vancouver was ninth. But 5 years after finishing bottom of the table because you were missing 2 guys, that's not acceptable. If I'm in KC and I'm a supporter of SKC, I'm rioting. I'm pissed off. I don't think he's done as a coach, by the way. I think that he still can do the job. My worry is he's too tied to an old system that wouldn't work here, and just the KC in general. Right? We talked about how dangerous that KC backline was with in prime Zusi, Beasler, Colin, and I think it was Sinovic on the other side with either Jimmy Nielsen or Tim Mealy in goal. And it was like, oh yeah, these guys are gonna be good for forever. And he's just stuck to that tactic, and now it's gone. Those guys are gone. They're past their prime. Tim Mealy is a shell of himself, and It's clear every time you watch the games that he's just not there. He's not bad, but it's just not at that level, and he's not willing to give new guys a new try. So it might be time that Casey and him just split ways. Let him go try something, go USL, go overseas. Maybe MLS is past you a little bit. I don't know, but I think Casey's would do well to move on. Now they'll probably have to eat a bunch of money. They just signed into a 5-year deal. And I'm going to double check that just to be sure. I remember it being 5, but I didn't look it up. But yeah, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I think once they move on from Vermes at coach, I would imagine a lot of changes will come to this club. A lot of these guys who, to their point of re-signing Vermes, just re-signed, but I would likely think a new coach comes in and probably starts to clear out this team. Reset, restart. Maybe they bring in some. Clearly, SKC's willing to give it a shot on bringing in big name players. So I think bringing in the right coach would be massive for this team. I mean, this is a team that we know can compete at the top of the Western Conference. They're willing to spend. This isn't an RSL where at best they sneak into the playoffs because they don't spend any money. Like SKC will try. And I think if they have the right coach and they get the right players, they will be up there with Seattle and LAFC competing in the West.
They did sign him to a 5-year deal through the end of the 2028 MLS season. That would make him a 20-year head coach at Sporting Kansas City.
Love
that. With the quote that says, Peter is a superlative strategic thinker who loves to win and hates to lose. Continuously demonstrates his commitment to our ownership's objectives of elevating Sporting KC as a perennial contender in a league that grows tougher and tougher every year. Well, my friend, Mr. Mike Illig, I say that's how you pronounce that, might want to reevaluate, my friend, because he may share that commitment to try and drive there, but he's not getting it done. And a bunch of people will be committed to doing that and have different ways to get it there. So it's again, I know for a fact that he's not going anywhere until he fails to win with Toledo, Kinda, Russell, Shallowy, all on the field at the same time at 100% ready to go. If he can't do it with them, then he's gone. But until then, he's got that crutch to say, well, my roster situation is tied up because we've got all our money in DPs and all the DPs are hurt. And there's no way around that. It's just something that we have to deal with. So because of MLS roster rules, he will stick.
Yeah, that's going to hurt SKC. If they continue down that route, they're not getting anything out of this season.
No. And again, this now goes back to the point of certain people who have this argument that if there's nothing punishing you for being last, what's the point? This is a really good example for those people to have a leg to stand. Because he's right. This happens in any other league in the world where finishing last means something. He's gone tomorrow. He's gone yesterday. He's gone last year. But because it isn't, he's able to lean on. Now, that's not just as easy to say as, oh, well, throw in pro rel and everything will get fixed. It's not, because the real issue is the spending. Because even if there was pro rel with 2 DPs tied up, you can't change anything. You're not going out and spending tons of money to fix it. So we're not going down the pro rel route today. We could, but I don't want to. What we will do. Oh man, do I want to?
Yeah, you do. You just get it out of the way.
If I start screaming, just mute me.
I don't know if I can.
You definitely can find a way. Just end the call.
Yeah, I might have to do that.